All right, today we're getting into a really fascinating and, frankly, pretty unsettling piece by Donald Matthew Varnado. It's called The Mask Era, When Faces Lie Back. And what this explainer does is unpack his claims about a whole new kind of physical deception, one that really messes with the line between what's real and what's just a performance.
So the author just drops this on us right at the start. It really forces you to stop and think about a word we all use. The point he's making is that the idea of a metaphorical mask, hiding your feelings, that's old news. The line is blurred, and now we're talking about actual physical masks.
Which brings us right to our first section. Counterfeit bodies. And just to be clear, we're not talking about putting on a brave face or a work persona. No, we're talking about something tangible, something you can touch.
Yeah, forget everything you think you know about costumes from the Halloween store. According to the source, we're talking about hyper-realistic, full-body silicone disguises that you can just find on open marketplaces. The author doesn't even call them costumes. He calls them counterfeit bodies. And they're apparently so good they can completely rewrite a person's appearance.
And when we say comprehensive, we mean it. It's not just a face. We're talking head, torso, chest, arms. You can even cover up something as distinct as tattoos. The claim is this tech lets a person convincingly change their entire physical identity, their apparent age, their race, even their gender. It's the whole shebang.
Okay, so now we know what these things are. The next obvious question is, how are people using them? Well, the author argues they've become tools for a whole new kind of manipulation. Welcome to the new theater of deception.
This source talks about what it calls a whisper campaign online, especially on platforms like YouTube. The allegation is that you have these entire online personas just appearing out of nowhere. Vloggers, artists, so-called spiritual guides. They look real, they act real, they emote on camera, but it's all described as a completely staged performance.
Now, this is where it gets really wild. The author makes a direct personal claim. Donald Matthew Varnado says he has seen this himself. He says he's witnessed the exact same disguise being worn by 4 different people around him. I mean, that's a pretty heavy claim that takes this whole thing from a theory to an alleged real-world phenomenon.
And this really lays out the alleged tactic. You have multiple actors wear the exact same mask shell. The whole point is to mess with you, to confuse you. You might notice, small differences in the way they move or their bone structure, but the face, the actual pores, the moles, it's identical. The goal is to make you doubt what you're seeing, to question your own ability to recognize someone.
So you've got to be asking, how is this level of realism even possible? Well, the source argues that the physical mask is just the canvas. The real magic, if you want to call it that, comes from artificial intelligence. AI is what makes the illusion breathe.
Check this out. It's not just one piece of tech. It's a whole stack of AI layers working together. You've got facial motion overlays that simulate those tiny micro-expressions that make us look human. You have real-time light and texture correction to make silicone look like actual skin. It can clone a voice and sync it to the mouth perfectly. It even coaches the wearer on body language. And that last one, adaptive morphing, that's supposedly how they fit one mask on multiple people. It's an entire algorithmic assembly line for creating a fake person.
So what you end up with is this bizarre hybrid. It's a physical object, but it's been given a digital polish, a digital nervous system. And it's this fusion of the silicone and the software that, according to the source, makes this deception so incredibly convincing.
But look, if it's technology, it's got flaws, it's got glitches. Which brings us to a really important part, spotting the mechanical flaws. The author is adamant that the giveaways here aren't magic. They're just bugs in the system. And here's what the source says to look for. First, an eye-to-skin mismatch. Think eyes that are a little too bright or pupils that don't react right to light. Second, a jaw motion lag. The speech is just a fraction of a second out of sync with the mouth. Third is something called texture drift, where the pattern of the skin seems to kind of float when the person turns their head. And last, a more intuitive one, energy misalignment. It's that gut feeling when someone looks right, but their presence just feels off.
The advice given is incredibly direct. If you spot 3 or more of these signs together, the author's recommendation is to just assume you're looking at an augmented disguise. And the instruction is pretty stark. Don't confront, don't engage, just document.
So let's pull the lens back. Why does any of this really matter? Well, according to the source, the implications go way beyond just a single trick. This stuff allegedly strikes right at the core of our social trust.
This really breaks down the shift. For all of history, identity was tied to things you could verify. Your face, your voice, your actual presence. But we're now entering a world of potential counterfeit identity, built on layers of silicone, AI, and just performance. As the author says, AI didn't invent lying, it just automated it. It put it on a massive scale.
And that leads to the biggest question of all, doesn't it? If the very things we've always used to tell us who someone is can now be faked and worn like a piece of clothing, what on earth happens to trust? What happens to believing a witness, or just believing your own eyes?
But the piece doesn't just leave us there in total despair. It ends with a call to action, not of panic, but of discernment. It's about standing beyond the masquerade.
And this is a really important distinction. The author is clear that this isn't about making everyone paranoid. It's about developing discernment. The whole point is that just being aware that this technology exists, that in itself is a form of protection. It's armor.
And we close on this really powerful, almost cinematic thought. The core idea is empowerment through knowledge. It doesn't matter how advanced the lie is. An illusion is still an illusion. And once you know what you're looking for, once you shine a light on it, the source contends the whole thing just melts away.